Hello,
Sorry.
everyone, and welcome back to the second session already, and the first of our track sessions. My next speaker is Tariq Munir, who is going to give us a very interesting presentation around digital transformation and mobilizing the organization at scale. Tariq has over 20 years of thought leadership in finance and has worked with global organizations. In addition, he's an accomplished futuristic business leader renowned for his expertise and insights in digital transformation, artificial and machine learning. He's also a keynote speaker who has delivered various talks and have been part of a panel discussion on subjects related to intersections of technology, business, and finance. He focuses his presentations on the transformative power of artificial intelligence and machine learning, as well as offering strategic guidance and practical solutions to CFOs and finance leaders to harness these technologies in risk management and operational efficiencies. Tariq is a chartered accountant and is a professionalized certified data scientist by IBM, as well as having a certified digital transformation expert diploma from Stanford. Tariq, it's my great pleasure to welcome you. I think first time at Automation Days Asia, and an absolute pleasure to welcome you for our conference this week. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Jan, and it's a pleasure for me to speak to such an audience, and it's an honor for me. So really looking forward to an interactive session today. So thank you, everyone. As Jan mentioned, I'm Tariq. I'm a keynote speaker, and I would say I'm not expert. I'm just a curious learner of digital transformation and its impacts on the organizations. I'm currently leading the APAC FP transformation at PepsiCo. So let's get into the details of our presentation for today. Now, before I get into it, sorry, yeah, before I get into it, let me tell you a little story. Sorry, my just one moment, please. I think it's just a click which is not. Sorry, can you? I'm sure you can still see my screen, but I'm probably having a little bit of technical issue here. What's the day
No,
without a technical issue, of course?
of course, let me help you a little bit. So we're now seeing your opening presentation screen.
Yeah, I might have to just close it down and open it again. Something is not working. Awesome. I think you should be able to see now, right?
Yeah, we now see the
Very good.
slide with a story of digital misadventures. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Perfect.
correct. Yes,
Great.
sorry for that. All right. Now let's get back to it. So before we get into it, let me share a small story with you. A couple of years ago, a global tech company, understanding the very need for staying ahead of the digital curve, combined all its digital initiatives under one umbrella. A whole organizational unit was set up which was responsible for leading the enterprise-wide digital initiatives. Naturally, billions of dollars were poured into the initiatives, from hiring best talent to investing in the most cutting edge technology. Everything was ideal, and the goal was very clear: capture the digital prize. However, there was one thing missing, and that was the return. The initiative was not delivering as it was supposed to, and there were a whole lot of organizational and strategic alignment challenges. Long story short, eventually the initiative had to be scaled back after churning an estimated $7 billion. Now, this story I just told you, it's not about a corporate struggle. What this tells us is that how, despite having all the resources and access to the best talent, a global organization fails to achieve its digital objectives. And unfortunately, today, when we scrub the corporate history, it is full of such examples: an obsession with technology, but minimal or failed returns. And when we double click, we find there are underlying four key missing elements that are pretty much a theme around these failures. That is a lack of vision, a lack of organizational alignment, governance, and very importantly, a lack of digital culture. Now, I know we did not want to start our day with the story of a failure. However, I do believe, genuinely believe that failures gives us an opportunity to learn more than our successes. And they learning from these failures is our key in surviving and thriving in an era where the corporate is evolving at a speed of light. And in fact, the very DNA of the corporate species is changing. In last 23 years, 52% of Fortune 500 companies have ceased to exist. And the biggest reason being their inability to evolve at the same speed as the digital landscape has been evolving. Technology is the biggest story of present age. It is redefining the very customer experiences we were used to. It's redesigning the operations and in fact reinventing the entire business model. Organizations who are not staying ahead of this digital disruption, they are bound to go extinct. In fact, the impact on workforce itself, if we talk about it, it is so profound that a World Economic Forum study recently suggested that in next 5 years, 44% of workers' core skills are going to be reshaped. So look at it that way. In 5 years' time, half of what you know today is going to become irrelevant. That is pretty daunting in my view. Now, to fuel such a big mammoth corporate evolution that we see and digital evolution that we see, it is estimated that a $2.3 trillion will be invested globally into these initiatives on an annual basis. So imagine the power and drive behind these initiatives to reshape this very corporate landscape we are in today. However, and there is always a but, of course, studies have proven that the failure rate of digital transformation initiatives is 80%. So if we look at it that way, that whatever we are investing, if the world is investing 2.3 trillion dollars, a whole lot of resources are going to go to waste. That is a bit unsettling statistic, I would say. So effectively, the organizations today are facing this dilemma or a crisis where, despite having access to the best resources, they are not getting the return or the results from the digital investments. However, there's a Chinese proverb which goes like this: a crisis is an opportunity riding a dangerous wave. In the next 25 minutes or so, I'm going to talk about an approach through which you can not only ride this technological wave to convert these crises into an opportunity, but also should be able to mobilize the entire organization behind your digital transformation efforts and therefore make your digital transformation journey a success. So let's get into it. And before actually I do go there, I would just like to quickly do a small poll here. So Jan, if you can help me with running that poll, that'd be great.
Good. The poll is now visible for everyone, and you can take your votes.
So the question is, what is your biggest digital challenge today? Is it choosing the right digital tool? Is it hiring the right talent? Is it getting the executive support? Or is it actually finding the time for transformation, right?
Good. I see a lot of people are voting. We're getting close towards 40 already. Good. I'm going to give them 5 more seconds.
Yes, sure.
Good. We have over 50 votes already. So let me show the results and close the poll right now.
Awesome.
Good. Are you able to see the results as well?
No, not yet.
Let me then show, because you're the presenter part. So the number one answer is 48% choosing the right digital tool.
Okay.
And then answers 2 and 3 each have 17%, and number D is 18%. So
Okay.
that's the number one challenge, is choosing the right digital tool.
Absolutely, and that makes perfect sense, right? A lot of times, knowing how to choose a tool that will unlock the real value for your business, it becomes the key. So that is a very valid point, and I guess let's just keep this poll, make a mental note of it, and we will refer back to it during our conversations, just to set a little bit of tone around what are the different challenges we are facing. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I would have said all of the above, a lot of us will have probably take that option because I do believe they all a number of these different challenges we face around the digital transformation. So now the question arises: how do we mobilize the organization? How do we mobilize in a way that can create, and emphasis on this one, a humanistic digitally enabled future, and not and we do not end up at the wrong side of that 80% statistics we just talked about. And to address this challenge, I will give you five principles. And I do believe by adopting these principles in their spirit, you can mobilize your entire organization behind the digital transformation. And please do notice here that I'm talking about mobilizing the entire organization and not just implementing a tool or implementing a digital transformation strategy. Because I do believe that without the entire organization standing behind the digital transformation efforts, digital transformation cannot succeed. Any transformation for that matter cannot succeed. Remember that transformation is a mindset, it is not just a process. With that in mind, I would also like to give you a word of caution that do not treat these steps that I'm just, oh, sorry, these different five principles that I'm going to talk about as steps that you do first one, then second one. Think of them as a more key elements of a playbook, which you can execute in, and most of these you can execute in parallel to each other as well. Now, those five key elements are crafting the vision, creating a roadmap, engaging your organization, tracking the progress of your digital transformation, and very importantly, creating a right to succeed. Now, let's get into the details of these. Now, most of the digital transformation failures happen, and we talked about that in our previous example as well. They happen because of a lack of clarity in the direction. Where do we begin and where are we headed to? Therefore, it is imperative to have an overarching digital vision which must be aligned with your business strategy and your business vision as well. And crafting such a digital vision need three key elements to it. What is your value chain? Map your end-to-end value chain from your supply, manufacturing, customer, consumer, and even competition, so on and so on, so forth. And prioritize those areas that provides the biggest value of digitalization or the biggest impact of digitalization. For example, if you an FMCG would imagine, think about if creating a digital customer experience, a consumer experience, or an omni-channel experience gives you the highest return. And if you are in a B2B kind of an environment, would logistics network planning provide the most impactful benefits to you? So think so that's the first step, I would say. Then assess what are your strategic assets, what are your key differentiated strengths that stands you apart from other organizations. And to give you an example, I'll share a small case study. In 2006, a global luxury brand, luxury fashion brand, was undergoing was struggling to grow and was undergoing a lot of troubles. Naturally, they decided to transform. And when they mapped their value chain, it revealed that best in class customer experience will generate most impact, which is pretty natural, I would say, in that scenario. They understood that their key customers or the consumers are young people who are willing to spend money. But in order for them to engage with those consumers, they need to speak their language, and their language was digital. Now, on the other hand, when they assessed their strategic strengths, they understood that their physical stores or their real estate footprint is actually their biggest strategic asset because they have the best locations across the globe in the best part of the world, in best part of the cities. So apart from doing a number of different initiatives, one peculiar one that I would like to call out is that they combined the digital and physical worlds within their stores. This created a very unique customer experience where people could see the live runway shows happening anywhere in the world in store while sitting in store and can order the stuff using the in-store iPads that the staff was carrying. Generally, when we think of what this points us to is that generally when we think of automation, we only think of digital. However, the real value unlocks when we combine the physical and digital realms together. And this example proves that the way they were able to combine those through understanding their key drivers, key value drivers, and their strategic strengths, it unlocked massive growth from them. Their online revenue, sorry, grew by around $1 billion in just 4 years. So this is how powerful this uh, crafting a vision through value chain and strategic asset assessment can be. Now you can have a best in class digital vision and a strategy, but do remember that without the right executive support, it is just that, a vision on a piece of paper. Executive buy-in, and that's why I put that as part of the poll as well. Executive buy-in is one of the most critical element that digital transformation need. It has to be management led and owned. Top management should have this digital transformation as part of their performance objectives, which might sound a little invasive. I can understand, but having a right reward and recognition system, having that in place, can truly enable the entire organization to mobilize behind these digital transformation, because then people own to it and people feel accountable and responsible for that. So I do believe that is an imperative. Aligning the executives and aligning the top team of your organization is an imperative behind this digital transformation. Now, there is a popular belief that digital transformation needs to be an all in effort. Organizations tend to end up committing more resources than are they required, resulting in generally a multi-year project that never ends or bring minimum returns. Sounds familiar? So going back to my earlier example of that digital separate umbrella unit that the organization set up, Wall Street Journal reported around that the work which that unit was doing could have been done by a smaller team in a much more effective way, instead of setting up a whole organization which was not needed at that time, right? So it was just about that time it was not needed. It might be needed today, but just referring to that example from a going all in perspective. So to achieve your digital vision, you must have a clear roadmap. That's a full stop. That's why I have an actually literally a full stop there. But you do not need to go all in. Instead, go incremental. Include small 3 to 6 month sprints of projects within your digital transformation roadmap, which provide maximum return. And they must all be tied to very specific business needs. Remember that digital transformation is not about technology. It's not about tools. It is about what technology can unlock for you. If there is no business case, do not implement technology for the sake of it. I know it sounds a common wisdom, but that happens. And then don't just go for massive exercises or massive projects around uh, digitalization and data unification and so on and so forth right away. Start by creating minimum viable products or what we call quick wins as well. Create small, fully functioning prototypes and then refine from there. This helps you with two things. Firstly, it creates an organization wide excitement because everyone can see the results of those quick wins, of those digitalization efforts actually impacting and changing their ways of working in a good sense. And you also can, and I'll tie it back to that again, executive buy-in. You can solicit that executive buy-in much more easily because the decision makers are able to see clear ROI and clear results tied to those digital initiatives. So you can actually go in and win more budgets for that. But please, a word of caution, do not please make sure that your roadmap is not just quick wins based. It should have a mix of both. In fact, think of quick wins as a financing vehicle for your medium and longer term projects. You do quick wins to get funding for your medium term and your longer term funding and buy-ins for your medium term and longer term horizon. So make a good mix of all of those objectives depending upon the organization you are working for. Now, excuse me. In a digital transformation journey, and this is the third element we are talking about, nothing is possible without people's engagement. And to engage people, I do believe we need to stick and go back to the basics. That is communication. You cannot over communicate during your digital transformation journey. So create a cadence leading from the front using the enterprise tools like Yammer, Slacks, emails, etc. to engage with people at scale. And leading from the front is a very important element of it because the more people see leaders communicating with the organization, the more they feel close to the objectives. And do things like hackathons, fireside chats, digital gamification, newsletter updates, just to create a buzz around digitalization, right? So that everyone is talking about it. And then go a step further. Co-create your digital roadmap and your vision with your employees. Make them feel empowered and part of the transformation journey as opposed to it being a top down mandate, which rarely works. In other words, tap into the power of crowdsourcing within your organization. On top of this, a very important aspect that I would say is to identify the digital champions, or what Didier Bonet and George Westerman call in their book Leading Digital, the true believers of digitalization. These people are the ones who are your ambassadors, and they will enable the creation of or encouraging the adoption of a digital mindset and a culture across the organization. Whenever you are thinking about any tool, think about adoption and not deployment. Deploying technology, encourage people to adopt the technologies into their day to day and improve their ways of working, as opposed to just implementing technologies. And these digital champions can really influence that across the organization because they are the ones who are interacting with the wider employees at a much more uh, at a level which is much more operational, or which is much more broader than probably yourself. So this is I would say a pretty imperative step for any digital transformation journey. In fact, creating a culture is so important that BCG in a study, they suggested that organizations with a digital culture and a digital mindset are 5 times more likely to succeed in their digital initiatives. So this is how powerful and important the engagement of people is. Now, imagine you have done everything, all those three principles you have done, but it's still not giving the returns. There is one very important piece of this recipe, if I may call it a recipe, and that is called governance. And by governance, I mean tracking your progress and creating an accountability and monitoring framework around your digital transformation. In fact, a global media giant, they had to write down nearly $150 million worth of their assets due to a failed digital media initiative. And the primary reason was a lack of governance around the investment. So we are talking about a really hard earned and highly fought and sought after budgets here, right? So budgets are always constrained, right? The money is always the constraint, and you get only a piece of that for your digital transformation initiatives. So creating a governance structure is, of course, the most one of the most important aspects of that. And start by defining clear KPIs. Build a balanced scorecard, which measures both financial and non-financial measures. Now, generally, we tend to involve a lot of financial measures around its returns and return on investment, so on and so forth. But sometimes non-financial measures become even more important. And the reason for that is that not every digital initiative you will notice will be part of will generate a very identifiable dollar benefit in the shorter term. In the longer term, they do tend to create that, but in the shorter term, you might not be able to see that. So to demonstrate the returns, also non-financial aspects become very important. I'm a big advocate for that. Things like your employee engagement, it has a direct relationship to how people are working. If you're automating their work, making their life easier, your employee engagement will increase. Number of hours that have been saved, which to an extent can be translated into dollar terms. The decrease in number of cyber attacks, for example, right? The cost avoidance that you could achieve because of the digitalization. What is the adoption of the technology adoption rate, which tells you about the maturity of the organization, and so on, so forth. Then on top of it, establish a governance structure or a steer co that measures the progress against these key transformation objectives. If the previous step about the engaging of the organization was about engaging the entire organization, this is about engaging with the right subset of that organization, which are effectively the people who are the decision makers, and they are engaging with the people who are leading the projects. That disconnect sometimes causes a lot of trouble and a lot of failures. So it's just make sure that that is enabled throughout your digital transformation journey. Now that also helps you with clearing any roadblocks, making decisions on what to do, and even more importantly, what not to do. So go no go kind of decisions. So that's, it sounds bit intuitive, of course, that having a steer co, having a governance structure, but having, think of these elements that I'm telling you about as part of a bigger piece of your playbook on how you are mobilizing your organization, rather than, as I said earlier, that as a step or as a piecemeal aspect of your strategy. Then on top of this, of course, make sure that you are tracking those results using the scorecards and with a clear accountability and reward and a recognition system in place. Do remember that a robust governance structure can be the single most important factor that determines whether your digital initiative, your automation initiatives are going to be a success or a failure. So this is how critical it can be. Now, what if I tell you that these 5 steps we just talked about are effectively of not much use? I know you might switch off the webinar, but before you do that, let me explain it to you, the reason I say that. None of these steps are possible unless you create a right to succeed. You can have a best-in-class vision, roadmap, a well-established steer co, your organization buzzing with digitalization and digital transformation. But if your organization or your function does not have a right to succeed, you know what will happen? It will not succeed. So I will give you three thoughts to ponder on this one and how you address this dilemma and how you create a right to succeed for your organization. And this is the last step, that fifth element that we talked about. Pardon me for calling it a step. Firstly, when you think of technology or automation, don't just think about just the technology itself or AI or machine learning or so on. Think of your ways of working, your operating models, and fundamentally your processes. You must remove the process complexity within your processes, within your functions. Because remember that automating a complex process will only increase and augment its complexity and inefficiency. So simplify your processes first. In fact, Bill Gates once said that earlier phases of any digital transformation or AI machine ML deployment is to actually optimize your processes and do basic workflow automations. Do not go for machine learning or AI tools if you haven't done that. Then the second one, which I cannot stress enough, and that is the only way I believe is for us to stay relevant, as I mentioned earlier, around that 44% statistic in a world where the equilibrium is shifting towards organizations with an entirely new digital DNA, that is to enhance the digital literacy and collective digital IQ of the organization. To do that, lead from the front and demonstrate continuous learning, irrespective of your level in the organization. That does not matter. This is the only thing I would say: be ruthless and almost selfish about it. Your development, you cannot go wrong with your development. Be ready to learn new skills and unlearn the old ones. That is very important. In fact, a cosmetics company, it's quite an interesting case study. So when they embarked on a digital transformation journey, they started an initiative called reverse mentoring, where a junior staff who was technically savvy would mentor a senior executive of the organization. So there were no egos involved. Everyone just wanted to learn, and this helped them with their digital transformation journey manifold. And of course, that is why it became a case study. So think about different areas that you have, different initiatives that you can implement to keep learning and keep upskilling yourself. Always remember one thing, that acknowledging the lack of knowledge is a strength. It is not a weakness. And then lastly, I would say create an experimentation mindset. Be digitally ambitious. Go for the quick wins, go for minimum viable products, and fail fast. Get the first mover advantage. Create a culture where experimentation and psychological safety is paramount. A culture where ideas are cherished, experimentation is encouraged, and failures are celebrated as long as there is something to learn. And 99.9% of the time, you will find something to learn in your failures. Remember that digital feeds on innovation, and innovation feeds on ideas. And ideas can only come up if people have psychological safety within the teams to come up with those ideas. So, this is how important this can be. Today, we cannot tell with certainty what future holds for us. We, I do believe we are at an inflection point where the wave after wave of technology is transforming the way we live, we work, we interact, and most importantly, create. Or, in the words of Mustafa Salman, who was the co founder of DeepMind, the next wave of technology is already here. The world is evolving at the speed of light, and the evolution of corporate DNA is catching up to it. Yes, it is true. No one can predict the future, especially when present or the past is so disruptive. Every day you are seeing new technologies coming up or the landscape changing. But remember, as Peter Drucker once said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. I do believe, and I'm very confident, and this is the very reason all of us are here. If we try, we can create a better and more humanistic tech enabled future for all of us. Thank you. So we do have some time for questions, I guess.
Absolute, Tariq. Well, before we dive into the questions, let me first and foremost say that I thought this was a very, very interesting presentation. I actually learned a lot myself. So thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing your insights with us today. I think it's a very, very interesting topic you're putting out, and also some very actionable pieces of advice.
Thank
I
you.
did indeed see quite a number of questions coming in. So if it's okay, I'll moderate those if that's okay.
Sure, sure, sure. Of course.
Good. The first question is coming from Tran Mai. What is your best tip on how leaders can inspire and motivate their teams to embrace change and new technologies? That's an interesting one.
Yeah, great question. And I guess the whole theme of my keynote, a lot of or a major portion or a major portion of the theme of my keynote was revolving around the leadership part of it. And you can have, as I mentioned, best technologies, but if leaders are not behind it, if you are not embracing that, you are not thinking adoption versus deployment, it's not going to work out. So what I would say is that some and leader can inspire and motivate others through what they do best, through leading from the front, right? Be the first one to talk about that technology, be the first one to embrace the change, embody that behavior, and demonstrate that. Use all enterprise tools, enterprise communication tools, like, as I mentioned, like Slack or whatever you use, emails, Yammer, etc., to keep encouraging people and showing them the benefits around how this is enabling the change it is happening. Sell the idea to them that how it is changing and removing complexity within their ways of working. Let them see the benefits of it, not just in terms of a technology or a new tool coming in, but in terms of real efficiencies it is going to create for their work. When they will see that, yes, it's actually shaving off 10 hours from my weekly time, and I can then spend that 10 hours in a much more strategic business partnering and in a much more value added work rather than data punching and crunching numbers. They will you will sell the change. So that will be my biggest couple of tips.
Yeah, no, those are excellent points to be made. I also think the next question is something you're going to really like. So this question is asking, how do organizations continuously adapt their digital transformation strategies to keep pace with rapidly evolving technologies?
Oh, great question, and yeah, you're right. I love this question. As I mentioned as well, that digital transformation. Now, always remember that digital transformation I generally refer to is, it's not a goal or an objective. It is always a journey, right? Within next 6 months, the technologies that we know today are going to change, right? It is very important. So there are two aspects always, and I did mention around the book from George Westerman and Didier Bonet, Leading Digital. I do recommend that. They talk about the two aspects of digital transformation: a leadership capabilities and a technical capabilities. So leadership capabilities, you need to is an overarching piece, which I was talking around most as well today. That needs to be there always, right? Which has that agility. Leadership should have that agility and, I would say, courage to change and pivot when needed. Your first of all, leadership needs to be to acknowledge that they don't know everything. There will be things in next 3 months which are going to change. Yes, we don't know what is going to change, but when it will come, through our collective wisdom and our collective power and agility, we will pivot right away. So that is a mindset that leadership needs to demonstrate. Number one. From a technology point of view, do always think about your technology as a puzzle, or as a stack which you should be able to plug and play much more easily. Today, a lot of technology is actually interrelatable, and you can actually build a tech stack using entirely different vendors or entirely different tools and technologies. So do think of, whenever you are thinking about your digital transformation strategy or tools, think about how it is going to serve your needs for next 5 years, right? Of course it will change 20 times in next 5 years, but
Yeah.
what will be those blank spaces that you can use some other tool maybe, or some other technology to actually help you navigate through those changes. It's very important to plan your tech stack in a very, very targeted and a flexible way, which has that flexibility that you can move things around, just like a uh, it's like creating a puzzle, or
Would that
solving.
would that flexibility be the same as kind of like the agility that people are talking about these days?
Exactly. So agility and flexibility both goes hand in hand. Agility from a no agility is a mindset as well, right? So what I just mentioned around how leaders needs to be acknowledging of the fact that yes, things will change, but we will be agile enough. We are agile and flexible enough to be able to pivot as and when needed.
Okay.
So I guess these are some of the key areas that you can focus on. I hope this answers the question. It's a very long topic. I'm pretty sure I can speak for a very long time on this one. I would love to speak more on this one, but yeah, just in the interest of time, I'll keep it here.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Let me. And I think there's one more question that I would like to answer. The next one is just more of a comment, saying thank you for the great presentation. And other Anthony also says really nice. So that's
Yeah.
all nice. This is a more of a good question, and maybe a good one to end with. Is what is your best advice to face a challenge where the initial investment for digital transformation is not sufficient enough to kickstart the early stages of digital transformation?
Okay. It's a long question. Let me just read it. What is it?
So I think it has to do with the initial funding required
Initial funding
to.
required. Yeah.
Yeah.
So generally, and I do write about that as well and talk a lot about that, is that generally when we talk about digital transformation or digital initiatives, yeah, we generally tend to commit a lot. We think of technology is going to require a lot of funding before we can actually go on with any of the tools or technologies. So I'll give you an example of unification of data, right? Creating data lake houses and combining data from different sources. That's quite a funding intensive process. Now, to get to that, my suggestion always is that go with what we call a minimum viable product or a quick win. Create small data sets out of data lake or somewhere, right? Show it to people that how a use case is actually performing to get the funding. Invest small, start small, go with the smallest quick win you have at the if you need to start off with, for example, creating a small Power BI dashboard to demonstrate that how dashboard reporting can help you with the next level of insights. Go with that first. Most of the organizations today have Power BI licenses, or they would have Microsoft licenses which they can use and go on with those kind of things. So just giving you an example, not endorsing anything or so, but just giving you an example around that. So go with those smaller quick wins. Create a little bit of excitement within the people to show them that these are the results that you can get by just investing in these small basic technologies. Imagine if we invest bigger, if we go bigger, how big we can become. And then have a very clear roadmap and have a very clear vision and strategy to that. Don't just go with the technology that ChatGPT is gonna come in and revolutionize the way we will ask questions and ask. But there are a number of nuances, right? There are a number of data issues, privacy issues, who will have access and whatnot. So you need to be very clear with your strategy and with your vision. So I hope this covers your question. Yeah, Abid.
Absolutely. I also have a participant, Eden, who has requested if he could ask a question live.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm going to try to do that. So Eden, I'm going to give you mic access right now, so you can ask your question live if that's good. Eden, go ahead. I don't think the mic is working.
I think Eden is on mute.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Tariq, Mr. Jan.
Yes, we can hear you. Hi, Eden. Welcome to Automation Days.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your genuine explanation on how to automate this digital. And then just one good question I want to ask. I have a traditional business owner, and how to convince this traditional business owner, if you don't mind to share.
Good. Tariq, questions for you. How do you convince traditional business owners of the need for digital transformation?
All right. Thank you so much.
Great. Yeah, great question, Eden. And I go back to my earlier point around, of course, it becomes difficult and it becomes very hard to sell this idea around digitalization, right? I mean, many people, they still treat digitalization as just a buzzword, right? For that, I do believe you need to go a little bit extra, right? Research, understand what are the different failures, organizations who have not been able to evolve and stay up to speed, how they have failed or they have become extinct. As I mentioned earlier, around 50% have become extinct in last 23 years. Why there is a need, always sell the idea around why there is a need for digitalization, right? What benefit it will bring out to them, right? How your traditional business owners, for example, they will be able to track their daily sales. They will be able to track their daily collections, for example, on a tip of on a touch of a button, right? Through their mobile phone, through their iPads, and so on and so forth. So all these kind of quick, and then create those quick wins and whatever you can do to actually encourage that without involving much funding. And then you can, once you can show those real benefits coming out, I'm pretty sure you can build from there. So I hope that answers your question, Eden.
I think it does. With that, Tariq, I see there's still a lot of questions coming in, but unfortunately we need to stop it at somewhere because we already have our next speakers waiting.
Of course.
Before we say goodbye, Tariq, I would like to thank you for sharing your insights. I thought this was a very interesting and very insightful presentation. So thank you so much for joining. I hope you enjoyed your first appearance on Automation Days Asia, and would be very happy to invite you back again next year. Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom. It's always great to see different points of view, and I think you touched upon a very interesting point around digital transformation, especially for larger organizations. So it made me actually learn a lot myself. So thanks so much for being a part of our event today.
Thank you so much, and it was a pleasure for me, and I myself learned a lot during this during preparation and everything. So it's great. I'm glad that you found it useful, and I hope I was able to inspire you to embark on this digital transformation journey. I just say I'm a curious learner, and that's it.
Thank you so much, Tariq. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
So we're going to take a quick break next, and for everyone else, I have already put on the screen what's coming up on the next hour. So here you would need to make a choice, and it's going to be a difficult one. We have on track one, Rina Ten, who is the head of marketing and communications of Singapore, Malaysia, and Greater China at the Randstad, and she is going to talk about driving efficiencies in marketing and communications with artificial intelligence. On the right-hand side, on track number 2, we have our first workshop starting. The workshops are a little bit more in-depth and a little bit more technical. So in this workshop, Anmol Krishnan Shakdiva, who is a hybrid cloud architect at Google, is going to talk about how to achieve ultimate infrastructure automation with Pulumi and Python. So a little bit more of a technical session for those of you who are wanting to roll up their sleeves and learn how to actually do it. And in track number 1, we have Rina, who is going to give a presentation around efficiency and marketing communications. So difficult choice to make. You still have around 9 minutes to think about it. And in the meantime, go get yourself a cup of coffee, because we're going to start right at 11 o'clock again. Thanks everyone for being part of Tariq's session, and I will see you back on the next hour.